Hi, my name is Shane. I'm a final year sociology student in WIT. This podcast will cover issues on globalization. The topic on today's podcast will be in relation to the war on drugs and how globalization affects the war on drugs. I'll also be joined by my fellow classmate, Sean. So Sean, how are you today?
Sure, I'm not too bad. No, yourself?
Good.
Looking forward to some talk about globalization. Learn about the war on drugs.
So do you know anything about really the war on drugs?
Not a whole hell of a lot, no, to be honest. No.
You know stuff on globalization.
I do,
obviously, yeah.
I do, yeah.
How would you see globalization?
It's kind of the world becoming increasingly interconnected. There's communication networks all over the place. You easily connected to a person at the other side of the world with the touch of a finger. The global economy is coming together as well. So I'm kind of interested to see how that.
It's really the advancements in technology, obviously, like breaking down barriers, creating a widespread community across the world.
It's mad, really, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Kind of interested to see how it influenced the war on drugs.
Yeah, well, obviously, you think about the whole thing about drugs is it's produced somewhere and then sold somewhere else. So obviously, it's transported globally. Even you take drug trafficking, for example, cocaine could be produced in Colombia, where it's then brought into the United States by Mexican cartels, where from the United States it can be brought in to mainland Europe, somewhere like Spain. Then from Spain, obviously you hear about Dublin gangland and all that, in Spain. So Dublin gangs obviously bring it back to Ireland. They traffic it back to Ireland, and that's how it's up here. So obviously, there's a lot of countries involved in that process. Yeah, and then even problems in Ireland, say in the capital in Dublin, there's massive heroin epidemic that started in the 1970s, and originally this heroin was produced in heroin, obviously heroin farms and all that, in places like Afghanistan, Burma, Pakistan, and the 1970s brought to Ireland, and then since then Dublin has struggled with a big heroin problem. A lot of people dying every year. You can see it on the streets of Dublin as even walk around. It's a terrible problem. And then I suppose, as you were saying earlier, the technological advancements, the internet obviously is faster. First of all, it's faster for communication, for people supplying drugs, people buying drugs. It makes it easier, yeah. But then there's also these online marketplaces which sell illegal goods. For example, a few of them are called Agora, Silk Road, or Tor, which essentially they're like an eBay or Amazon that you can buy illegal goods off of. And they get away with this because obviously people that buy, not sure how it works completely, but people that buy the software that use this would have special software on the computer that it changes their IP address. Say if you were in, I don't know, New York, America, you go on this website, and obviously then the online police, whoever looks at this stuff, will be looking at your IP address, but that will say your IP address could be in Moscow, in Russia. So obviously globalization has a huge impact on the war of drugs. How it's made available, how it's transported, everything.
So what kind of social problems come with illegal drugs?
Well, obviously, as we spoke earlier, we talked about how say Mexican cartels would traffic drugs into the United States from places like Colombia, Bolivia, Peru, all them countries. But the big problem with cartels and then gangland involvement is that essentially illegal drugs are sold on the black market economy, and in the black market you don't have consumer rights or anything like that. So it's their world. They do what they want. I'm sure everyone's seen Narcos, and also essentially that could be blown out of proportion, but at the same time there is elements of truth in it. I think in Mexico there was over 60,000 people killed in cartel related violence in Mexico, and then there was also 26,000 people missing. So like
it's a competitive market as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
In terms of like
they've been
gangs going at each
gangs
other.
going against each other and all that. Like obviously then this happens because it's illegal. Whereas if you take like if these were legalized, it would essentially eliminate the drug cartels.
Yeah.
Like they'd be just wiped out completely.
Yeah.
So then like
They
obviously
don't have to fight over, do they? Like
yeah,
you know,
like it's terrible. Like
they're out in the open, really.
exactly. So I have this clip I'll play by, I suppose, a famous person on his opinion really on this topic of cartels and gangland.
You know, human beings seem to have a propensity to want to take drugs in some form. You know,
Makes you feel
for
better.
thousands of years, people have taken drugs. You know, whether it's like alcohol, which was invented 5,000 years ago, people have been using that, and all kinds of marijuana and all these things, tobacco. I don't know how many thousands of years, long time, I'm sure. And so all these drugs have, you know, been. It seems to be the propensity of human beings to want to use them. So you have to. I think you have to take that as read, you know. But then what do you do when it affects so many people's lives in not a good way, you know? And then also then you get a lot of violence at both ends of the scale. So you get violence in some countries producing country violence, and then you get, which like we have in Mexico now, and then you get violence at the other end of people trying to obtain drugs. So you got that part of it. That's the part that speaks to some sort of legalization, because that you would hope would help the violence on both ends of the supply line.
So if you didn't guess who that well-known voice was, it was Mick Jagger, and I suppose in a way it's a guy who's, I suppose, for the majority of his career he's been in environments where drugs has been prevalent. Like he's a well-known character, I suppose. But I mean, like, he makes sense though. Like on both ends of the lines, not just cartels. Like obviously, when say cocaine is produced in South America, so obviously in South America and Central America, there are cartel involvement. But then when they come to places like, I don't know, like Dublin, London, Birmingham, Cork, there's the people who are in the other line of it, who are like buying drugs, the small time kind of drug dealers, and even consumers. Like if I don't know, like if certain drugs aren't, if they're not paid, if the drug dealer doesn't get his money, he's not going to go and plead, and he's gonna force his way to get the money.
Yeah.
And if he doesn't get the money, he's gonna use violence, I suppose. Yeah. What do you think of that, Sean?
Like, I think we've all, you know, on a very small scale, you know, seen or known someone that's kind of.
We've all heard of it.
Yeah,
we've all heard of stuff.
Like the towns we're from, like I don't think they're not the most. Well, what's the term here?
Affluent.
Yeah, like there is quite like, however small it is, there's a culture for it around here. You know, there's like lots of people that engage in it. So you know, you can see how it affects people on every day. Like people I know who've been on the run because of things like this. Like you know,
Yeah.
been kind of, you know, hiding away in fear of being caught by somebody they owe money to. You know.
I suppose the point is, like, we've all heard local stories.
Yeah.
And it's just like, I'm sure everyone's heard local stories. You know, it's just become nearly prevalent in modern day society. It's common.
Yeah. Right, so, do you think that prohibition is the right way to go about the war on drugs?
Well, to be honest, like, the way the war on drugs has been fought in, I don't know, the last maybe 60, 70 years, it's been very punitive. I suppose it's been very conservative as well. But like, I suppose if drugs are legalized, there's obviously benefits economically.
Yeah.
Just like there's benefits to alcohol and cigarettes being sold.
Yeah.
I think the US spent about $26 billion on their federal drug budget in 2015, whereas I think the Financial Global Integrity Report claims that the legal drug industry is worth somewhere between $426 billion and $652 billion. So obviously, if this industry was legalized, there is huge economic benefits to this.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I can see what I mean. Like, and that's money that needs to be spent elsewhere as well, isn't it? You know.
Yeah, like if you legalize drugs and then you took the money that you're spending, like trying to stop,
Yeah.
and you put it into like more information, really,
Yeah.
more education, and then I suppose when you get down to it, rehabilitation
Yeah.
and all that stuff. So even like to be honest, I really think that's the way forward. Like, it's more kind of just liberate the whole war on
Yeah.
drugs.
So, like, I think we all know how serious kind of drugs are, especially abuse stuff. But like, how dangerous can they get? You know, how can it be dangerous? You know, coming through.
I suppose, like, for the point of this podcast and this kind of globalization topic in general, I don't think we can go into the whole medical basis too much. But I think, like, obviously, you think like something like marijuana, like, it's just, I haven't heard of, like, I don't think there has been a registered death, like, due to
I
marijuana.
don't think there has.
No, I don't think so. Like,
That's why I rated death with alcohol.
yeah,
You know.
exactly. Even these people, alcohol can cause much more problems than
Yeah.
marijuana, really. But I suppose, like, the one thing I will say, like, is a lot of, like, drugs, say, like, particularly cocaine or MDMA or these kind of powder drugs,
Yeah.
they're adulterated with other substances. So, like, essentially, they're mixed in with other substances.
Yeah.
And, like, for the point of this is basically for profit for drug dealers. So if you think about it, right, cocaine is produced in Colombia, and then it's brought into the United States. So you're going to get drug dealers in the United States, I don't know, for example, say on small scale, we'll just say a gram,
Yeah.
right? And then that drug dealer might mix in, I don't know, something like washing detergent with the cocaine to get, exactly, yeah, to get
It's rough.
2 grams of cocaine, right? And then, like, this will happen on a bigger scale, obviously. And then, say it could be brought, as we were saying earlier, it could be brought into Spain. And then in Spain, they'll do the same thing. They'll mix it with something like, I don't know, like creatine or something like that. And then from there on, it'll get brought into Dublin, where they'll mix it with something, I don't know, like procaine or some, even just any like detergent that looks like any white detergent, basically, from
Yeah.
cocaine, I suppose. Any substance. And then that'll be brought into Dublin, where they do the same thing with. So, and then say, I don't know, say it's brought into Waterford, and then obviously by the time that comes in, the amount of times it's mixed with other substances, the purity of the cocaine obviously isn't there. I think it was I read a Voice article where they said 20%, between 20% and 30% of, no, sorry, the cocaine in the United Kingdom is only 20% and 30% pure.
Yeah.
And the rest of the percentage of cocaine, well, supposedly cocaine, is other substances. And like, it could be mixed with like fatal substances. Take stuff like rat poison or something. Like realistically, this is what happens. Like,
Yeah.
so like, obviously then, like, if drugs were legalized, the drugs that are produced will be of pharmaceutical quality, and then the death rate would be reduced, obviously, because
As many
there's not as many like
lethal.
other
versions of it,
substances.
yeah.
At least, obviously, like, they're going to be death rate with cocaine, because obviously it's a dangerous thing.
It is, yeah.
But the fact that there's stuff mixed in with it as well creates more danger to users.
Yeah. Okay, so just bring it back. So we're talking about the economic side of this whole situation or
Yeah.
scenario a few minutes ago. It's kind of interesting to see, like, just kind of the extent which, the extent of the economic benefits that, legalizing drugs can have. Like, so what kind of...
Well, obviously, it has huge economic benefits. If it was legalized, it would. Because if you think about it, like if they're taxed like cigarettes and alcohol, I think the stat was something like, if drugs were taxed like cigarettes, well, depending on how many drugs there were, I think it was something. If you take like, I think it was cocaine, marijuana, ecstasy, and there was some other substance in with it. It was like, if you tax all them, like cigarettes and alcohol are taxed, the US would end up receiving 46.7 billion in tax revenue every year.
Jesus Christ.
Like, obviously, like,
And that is money that can be put towards education and all
yeah,
that.
it can,
It's
and
wasted.
can be put back into rehabilitation as well, I suppose. And then, what was it? In the Netherlands, between the marijuana industry in the Netherlands and the red light district, it produces 3.4 billion annually for the Dutch economy. And the Netherlands is a small country,
Yeah,
essentially.
that's a lot of money. Like.
Yeah, I think the marijuana industry accounts for 0.5% of the Dutch GDP.
Yeah.
So obviously it's a big part of their economy and how they make money. Like the Dutch government make $600 million from just 730 coffee shops in tax revenue.
Not half swimming, are they?
No, I know. Then it creates a huge tourist industry.
Yeah,
because people going over there just purely for this.
Yeah, it's a big thing over here, isn't it? Like,
Yeah, even if you look at America, there are some states in America that like it's legalized for recreational use and then medical use. But I suppose the real thing, like say economists be looking at, would be recreational use because that's where the money is. I think there's an economic study and they believe that the US government would save $13.8 billion a year if all states legalized marijuana.
Yeah.
How many states in the United States? 50,
I think. Yeah.
50,
I think
51 or?
Well, it's all, we're not geography students.
No, not geography students, no. So it's like, and then the stat is that 40% of Americans have admitted to trying marijuana.
I think you get that pretty much.
Yeah,
most places, like.
I think like it's kind of nearly. It's an
experience. It's a common thing, isn't it? Like,
it's kind of a normal. It's nearly normalized now, I suppose.
Like,
yeah.
You know, college students, we know.
Yeah, it's like I saw an interview and I think it was Larry King. Larry King shot, and he was like, he said like pretty soon like marijuana is legalized because all the law students he knows use it. So then, if you think like in Colorado, the sale of marijuana for recreational use has been legalized, and then the US market for legal cannabis increased by 74% in 2014 to 2.7 billion from 1.5 billion in 2013. And then like the taxes on the cannabis average up to 44 million in Colorado, and it's between 7,500 and 10,000 jobs are in the Colorado cannabis industry.
Yeah, I was actually, before I came in, I was looking up a case on marijuana, and like it's literally they're making it into everything. You know, I think it's in Colorado. I can't remember exactly, but they're basically making them into like jelly sweets sort of things. They're making them, you know, this whole there's like marijuana sushi, something like that.
Yeah.
You know, and they're having classes over there in it, like in how to roll joints. You know,
Yeah.
it's like it's crazy, and because they were talking to the lad that was the guy that's at the head of it, or he's one of the head guys anyway.
Yeah.
He's basically they're choking out the black market doing this as well, like, you know, so that's another.
It's real commercialized. Like,
yeah.
So they are like essentially what we're told about making the best of like what's going on. It's essentially taking advantage.
Yeah.
Like they are taking advantage to the full.
They're taking something they consider to be a bad situation and turned it into something
Yeah.
positive, like rather. Yeah.
It's like it's not theme parks, but like essentially they've like team shops and like
Yeah, they do.
you know, like yeah. It's interesting, I suppose.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah. Okay, so we're talking about Colorado. We've talked about Amsterdam. You know, places where they've legalized marijuana. You know, so these places might get a stigma of antisocial behaviour. So do you think that this could be a problem if it was to be legalized in some place like Waterford?
Yeah, there is a problem there because obviously if one place legalized a certain drug, people will flock to this area to use it.
Yeah.
And obviously, like any tourist attraction, there's going to be antisocial behaviour attached to it, but purely because the nature of this tourist attraction is going to create more antisocial behaviour.
Yeah.
So the only way to stop that, I personally believe, is if it's legalised globally, where it just creates an open field where people don't have to go to a certain place, where they can just, if they want to smoke marijuana, they can just do it in their own house.
Yeah.
They don't have to, hang around a certain park,
dodgy areas.
certain area, exactly. Yeah.
It's like, especially when you get people in built up areas, you know, you have all sorts kind of meshing with each other, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you know?
it's loitering really, isn't it?
Yeah, and people bounce off each other, you know, people that don't like each other or whatever, coming into this one area, you know, with what they're doing could cause trouble, you know.
Yeah, that's exactly it.
And then you're looking at problems for like police, looking at, you know, that are trying to stop them, you know. Wait, no. Right. So another thing I was looking at before I came in was in 2001, I think it was, Portugal decriminalised all use of illegal drugs in the country, and as a result of that, 90% of their resources with regards to drugs have been on rehab as opposed to taking care of criminals, basically, or well, what they perceive as criminals. Whereas in America, it's the exact opposite statistic. It's 90% on the criminals, whereas it's 10% on rehab. I think deaths are down since then, and the number of addicts are down since then. So, like, where do you stand on the decriminalisation versus legalisation debate? Do you see it from one side of
I think
point of view? Like,
decriminalisation solves a lot of problems, right? But like from the view where we were making points about, like saying like we to be honest, we were mainly looking at the economic benefits of it and taking away the violence of the legal drugs. So from that perspective, the best thing to do will be legalization, obviously, because I know decriminalisation it's done a lot. Like I say in Portugal, it's like done fantastic jobs. Like
yeah,
so, but like decriminalisation still means that the drugs are legal. It's not a criminal offence.
yeah,
So if you have decriminalisation, right, you're not getting any tax on the drugs. You're not getting any economic
yeah,
from drugs, other than I suppose people in rehabilitation. So you're paying for the rehabilitation,
yeah,
but you're not getting any like economic sources
yeah,
financially from the drugs.
yeah.
And then it's the same with the violence as well.
Mm.
Like decriminalisation doesn't solve the violence because obviously who's supplying the drugs?
Yeah,
The cartels are.
yeah,
So obviously, like that comes into it.
yeah,
Then I think another thing then is like if everything is legalized, right? Say for example, like I think if drugs are seen as a health problem rather than a crime problem, like usage will decrease. Like
yeah,
you think about it, like even cigarettes, like I don't know, like it's like my auntie, she smokes about I don't know somewhere between 20 and 30 cigarettes a day.
yeah,
But like you always hear saying, "Oh, I better cut down on them now." Like she knows it's bad for her,
yeah,
and like obviously she's a bad example because she still smokes.
yeah,
But if she has the intention, like she keeps saying that, oh, she better cut down because she knows it's bad for her health.
yeah,
Whereas if you have this with drugs, like I don't know, say people smoke marijuana, they would be like, "Oh, this is bad for me. Like
yeah.
I better stop." And it's the same. It can be seen as the same, I suppose.
One thing that, like, on that sort of point, I was thinking, when you have it legalized, I think people are more likely to get help because they're not thinking of the problems they're going to have with the law that they've been
Yeah,
taking
that's
or
it.
whatever.
That's it.
They're more likely to,
It's
look
a
at it.
psychological thing, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, but I think it's like it's fear as well in terms of like they know if say they're addicted to cocaine or something like that, that if they go and seek help or whatever, they could be questioned of where they got the cocaine, how they became addicted to the cocaine.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
And then they end up in a whole another problem. As opposed to if it's legalized, they know that they can go and seek help,
Yeah.
without any repercussions. Like go back to that Portugal case. They actually have people going around that will supply like fresh needles or whatever to heroin addicts
Yeah.
or whatever. And they won't force them to, they won't be asking them, oh, why don't you quit, trying to force the issue on them. But rather they'll be like, they'll talk with them or whatever, and if the person doesn't want to come out to them or kind of like tell them that they have problems or whatever, they don't have to, but they have the option. It's not one that's going to be looked down on, for being addicted to it.
That's it, though. There's a fear of asking for help.
Yeah.
It's the fear of asking for help.
Yeah.
And that's what I suppose holds a lot of people back and ends up inevitably killing people.
Yeah.
Because they're too scared to ask for help because they don't know where to go.
So, kind of, we're approaching 25 minutes now. It's been a good talk. So, just kind of to finish up, where do you stand personally on the debate? Do you think it should be legal, or do you think,
Yeah, I suppose I'd be very kind of. I suppose I kind of think more liberally now, like.
Yeah.
On the topic. So, I think decriminalization is a step forward, but I think like inevitably at the end, the main goal is probably like I can see more things come from complete legalization of illegal drugs than decriminalization, purely because what we talk about, like the cartels, and then obviously asking for help, and then economic benefits. And like it's kind of the case, like if people are going to do it anyway, if people are doing it anyway, you may as well make it safe.
Yeah, do your best to kind of
make it a control it. I suppose like, that's all we can say today. I suppose it's been an enjoyable podcast.
It's been good fun, yeah.
Right, thanks.